Hey everybody, it's Teresa. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to make a bracelet today, and I'm going to use some of the beads that came in my most recent Adornable Elements Rotating Beads of the Month Club. This month I got the Hot and Trendy beads. I'll put a link in the corner of this video and in the description box below to the unboxing video I did for this subscription in case you want to watch it, where I go over everything that came in the subscription this time. I have a coupon code, it's Teresa10, and I'll put it on the screen here and in the description box below, along with a link to the page to sign up for the subscription if you're interested. The coupon will save you 10% off the first month of whatever club or clubs you decide to sign up for. And if you sign up for the Rotating Beads of the Month Club, which is the one that I get, they'll put you on the same rotation that I'm on, so you'll get the same collection of beads that I do every month. I'm going to be using the gecko beads that came in the subscription. The color is Jet Slipperet. And then from my stash, I've got some little 3mm round beads here. I didn't have them labeled, but they're sort of a champagne color. And I've got a toggle clasp from my stash and a couple of 8/0 galvanized gold seed beads that I'm going to attach my clasp with. I've got some Durcoat galvanized gold 11/0s and 15/0s. These are all my Miyuki brand seed beads. And then I'm going to be using these 8/0 Miyuki Durcoat dyed opaque spruce is the color on these. I've got a size 12 beading needle, and I'm going to be using my 6-pound fire line in smoke. I'll just be using my scissors to cut my fire line and my thread burner to burn down the ends when I cut it off. I think that's everything. I'll put links to everything I could find links for that didn't come in the subscription, and I'll put them in the description box below. So hold on, let me get some of this out of the way and I'll be back. Okay, I've got some of my beads out here. I've got my 8/0 green beads and my 11/0 Durcoat galvanized gold beads here. The base of this bracelet is going to be chenille stitch, and I have done a chenille stitch bracelet before, and I'll put a link in the description box below to that video. If you've never done chenille stitch before, it might be easier for you to go back and watch that video, because in it I use 2 different colors of 8/0s, and it's a little bit easier to understand the stitch if you're using 2 different colors of 8/0s. But I wanted to use 1 color of 8/0s in this one because I'm going to make this the base of my bracelet, and then I'm going to embellish it with those gecko beads. So I just wanted this one to be 1 color. But like I said, I'll put a link to that other video in the description box below if you think you need to watch it to better learn how to do the stitch. It's not a hard stitch at all, but it's just easier to learn if you use 2 different colors of 8/0s like I did in that other video. So I'm going to start out by picking up one of my 8/0s, an 11/0, 2 8/0s, an 11/0, 2 8/0s, an 11/0, 2 8/0s, an 11/0, and 1 8/0. And I've got my needle threaded, and I'm leaving about a 12-inch tail to have enough to sew my clasp on with later. Sometimes I just leave about 10 inches and then I end up struggling because I don't have enough. So this time I decided to leave 12 inches. So this is what I've got on my needle now. So the first thing the beginning of this is going to be a little bit different. The first thing I'm going to do is pick up an 11/0 and one of my 8/0s, and I'm going to skip this first 8/0 and I'm going to go through all these beads till I get to the other end, and make sure not to miss any of the beads, and pull my thread through, and that sets that 8/0 down there at the bottom. I'm going to lower my camera a little bit. Sets that 8/0 down there at the bottom next to the 8/0 that I skipped. Now I'm going to flip it over here, and I'm not going to flip it every time, but I'm going to this first time. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and an 8-0. And I'm going to go into, I'm just going to go into this 11-0 here though. I'm not going to go through all of them like I did that first time. So I've got the same thing on each end there. I'm going to tighten down my stop bead a little bit here. Get everything tightened up so it's easier to see. Now, every other row I'm going to be picking up, one row I'll be picking up 8-0s and the next row I'll be picking up 11-0s. Whenever I'm sewing away from my stop bead, I'm going to be picking up 8-0s. Whenever I'm sewing toward my stop bead, I'm going to be picking up 11-0s. So I'm sewing away from my stop bead, so I'm going to pick up 8-0s. So I'm going to pick up 2 8-0s, and I'm going to go into this 11-0. If I can get my needle in there, I pulled that awful tight. That's going to set those 2 8-0s next to those 2 8-0s that I skipped. Now I'm going to pick up 2 more 8-0s. I'm going to go into the next 11-0. Just pull it up tight there so they'll sit next to each other. I'll pick up 2 more 8-0s. And I'm going to go into the next 11-0. Okay. Now I need to get around here so that I can come back down. I'm coming out of that 11-0 right there. I'm going to go into this 8-0. I go through this 11-0 and this 11-0 on the side here and on the bottom there is just to hide my thread. Now when I'm going toward my stop bead, I'm going to be picking up 11-0s, and I want my 11-0s to be offset. When I did the other bracelet and I used 2 different colors, I referred to each little block here as a flower. But it's not as easy to do that when you're using one color. So I want my 11-0s to be kind of diagonal in each row. Not kind of diagonal, diagonal. And offset from each other. So for instance, I don't want another 11-0 right here next to this one. I want an 11-0 right here. So I'm going to go down both of these 8-0s. Pick up an 11-0, and then I'm going to go through both of these 8-0s. And that puts that 11-0 diagonal to that 11-0. Now I pick up another 11-0, and I'm going to go through 2 more 8-0s. And that puts that 11-0 diagonal to that 11-0. Now I pick up an 11-0, go through these last 2 8-0s. That puts that 11-0 diagonal to that 11-0. Now I'm going away from my stop bead, so this time I'm going to be picking up 8-0s. So I'm going to pick up 2 8-0s, go into this 11-0. Pick up 2 more 8-0s, go into this 11-0. Pick up 2 2 more 8 O's, go into this 11O. Now I need to put 2 more 8 O's here, but I don't have an 11O to go into. So I'm going to have to ladder stitch these 2 8O's onto these 2 8O's. So I'm going to pick up 2 8O's, I'm going to go into the top of these 2. Pull my thread through. And that ladder stitches those 2 8O's onto the 2 8O's there. Now, whenever I do this ladder stitch, every time I do this, I'm going to go up one of these 2 8O's that I just put on, because I want to have an 11O here, so it'll be diagonal to the 11O's I have here, or every other one of these will have an 11O. So I'm pick up an 11O and I'm going to go up into this 8O. I'm going to pull that tight. Now also, every time I do that ladder stitch, I know this is where I want to put my 11O on the outside up to decorate my side and to hide my thread. So I'm pick up an 11O and an 8O, and I'm going to go into this 11O. Now I'm sewing toward my stop bead, so I need to pick up 11O's this time. I've got this 11O here, diagonal. I don't need an 11O here, I need one here to keep my diagonal going. So I'm going to sew through these 2 8O's. Pick up an 11O. Sew into the next 2 8O's. And that puts my 11O diagonal there. Now I'll pick up another 11O. Sew into the next 2 8O's. And that's puts that 11O diagonal. Now I'll pick up another 11O and sew into this last 8O. And that puts that 11O diagonal. Now, whenever I do the 11O on the outside to hide my thread on this end, I have to do it on this end too. So I'm going to pick up an 11O and an 8O, and I'm going to go into this 11O. So now I have the same thing at each end here. So now I'm sewing away from my stop bead, so I'm going to pick up 8O's this time. So I'm going to pick up 2 8O's, go into the next 11O. Pick up 2 8O's, go into the next 11O. Pick up 2 8O's, go into the next 11O. Now to get it back around, I'm going to sew up into this 8O, across this 11O, and I'm going toward my stop bead, so this time I'm going to be picking up all 11O's. I need an 11O right here to keep my diagonal going. So I'm going to sew down both of these 8O's, pick up an 11O, sew through these 2 8O's, pick up an 11O, sew through these 2 8O's, pick up an 11O, sew through these 2 8O's. So that puts all those 11O's I just put on diagonal to the ones that are already on there. Now I'm going away from my stop bead, so I'm going to pick up all 8O's this time. So I'll pick up 2 8O's, go into the 11O, 2 8O's, go into the 11O, 2 8/0s, go into the 11/0, and this is where I need 2 8/0s, but I don't have an 11/0 to go into. So I'm going to ladder stitch these two. So I've got 2 8/0s. I'm going to go into the top of these 2 8/0s. And whenever I do my ladder stitch, that's when I know I'm just going to go back up one of these 8/0s. And put an 11/0 in here. Pull everything tight so I won't have any threads showing. So that keeps my 11/0s going on a diagonal there. Now I did my ladder stitch, so I know this is where I put my outside 11/0. So I'm going to pick up an 11/0 and an 8/0. Go into this 11/0 that I just put on. Now I'm sewing toward my stop bead, so I need to pick up all 11/0s this time. So I need an 11/0 here to keep my diagonal going and to keep them offset. So I'm going to go through these 2 8/0s, pick up an 11/0, just one. I'm going to go through these 2 8/0s, pick up an 11/0, go through these 2 8/0s, pick up an 11/0, go into this last 8/0. So all my 11/0s are diagonal there. Now I did the outside 11/0 up here, so I have to do it down here too. So I'm going to pick up an 11/0 and an 8/0, and I'm going to go into this 11/0. Now I'm sewing away from my stop bead, so I'm going to pick up all 8/0s this time. I'll pick up 2 8/0s, go into this 11/0, 2 more 8/0s, go into this 11/0, 2 more 8/0s, go into this 11/0, and now to get back around to come down, I'm going to go up into this 8/0, across this 11/0, and down into these. I'm just going to go ahead and go down into both of these 8/0s, because I know that my next 11/0 needs to be here to keep my diagonal going. So I'm just going to keep doing this until I get the length that I want. And then when I get the length that I want, we'll put on one side of the clasp, and then we'll do some embellishing with the gecko beads. And like I said, if this is confusing for you, that other video I did using 2 different colors is easier to follow, and I'll put it in the description box below. So I'll be back. Okay, I've got my length that I want now, and I've got to one of the points here where I did my ladder stitch up here, and I did my outside 11/0 and my 8/0, and then I came down with my 11/0s, and then I did my outside 11/0 and my 8/0 to match this top part. So now I'm going away from my stop bead, so I'm going to put in all 8/0s now. So I need 2 8/0s. I'm going to go in this 11/0, 2 more 8/0s, go into this 11/0, and 2 more 8/0s, and go into this 11/0, And that's where I'm going to stop because I want this side to match the side that I started with. So this is where I'm going to stop. So now I'm going to sew around and get in position to put my clasp on. So hold on, I'll get my clasp and I'll be back. We'll put the clasp on. Okay, I've got my clasp here now, and I'm coming out of this 11-0 here. I'm just going to sew around until I get in the position that I want to be to put my clasp on. So I'm going to sew up into this 8-0. I'm going to go across this 11-0. Sew down into this 8-0 and this 11-0. And I'm going to sew into these two 11-0s. So now I'm going to do, I've got my 8-0 here that my gold 8-0 that I'm going to use for my clasp. I'm going to pick up, I think, I'll try three 11-0s, my 8-0, my clasp, this is a clasp that's not double-sided, and I like to use these. Oh yeah, it is. I thought it was not double-sided. I was going to say I like to use clasps that are not double-sided when I'm going to have a definite top to my bracelet, but that one is double-sided. I didn't think it was. Okay, now I'm going to come back down my 8-0. Pull a hold on my clasp and pull so that I can get the slack out of my thread. Now I'm going to pick up 3 more 11-0s. And I'm going to go over here. I'm coming out this third 8-0 from the end here. I'm going to go into the third 8-0 from the end here. And just go through both of those 8-0s. And put my clasp on like that. And see if that's the way I like it. If I like that, I think that'll be alright. So now I'm going to sew around so that I can go all around this again. So I'm going to go into this 11-0. I'm going to go into this 8-0. Go across into this 11-0. I go into this 8-0. Go up into this 11-0, into those two 8-0s. Now I'm going to go around this again. I'm going to go up these 3 11-0s and the 8-0 under the clasp. And then I'm going to go back through my clasp. Go back down the 8-0. And the 3 11-0s on the other side, and into these 2 8-0s. I've got caught around my clasp, got my thread caught around my clasp there. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and sew around just like I did again, and sew around my clasp one more time, and then when I come back I will do the embellishment on the top. So I'll be back. Okay, I finished sewing on my clasp, and I sewed that thread I was using in because I was at the end of it anyway, but that's fine because I kind of wanted to start. I'm going to make little flowers with my gecko beads and put them on the top of the bracelet here, and I think I wanted to start in the center because I think if I start in the center and work out each side, I can better space out my flowers the way I want them to be. Of course, they don't have to be exact, but this is the way of course you can start at the end if you want to, but since I had to add in a new thread anyway, I thought this would just be the easiest way to do it. And I've got about 6 feet of thread on my needle, which is I'm sure way too much. And I put a stop bead right in the very center. So I've got 3 feet on each side of my stop stop bead. So I'm going to put one of my flowers on here and then work this way, and then I'll put a needle on this other side and work this way. So I've picked what I think looks like to be about this halfway mark of my bracelet here, and I've just I'm going in the side here, and I'm just going to pull my thread through till I get to my stop bead stops it. And then I'm going to go up here. I'm going to sew until I get into one of these sections that has the 4 little beads here without an 11-0 in them, like this one, this one, this one, these 4 that doesn't have an 11-0 between them. The chenille stitch is a real good stitch to embellish the top of. Of course, I thought about doing a peyote base. I thought about doing a square stitch base. Any of those would work, but I just decided on the chenille stitch base. It's easy to embellish the top of, and I just kind of think it's a pretty stitch, so I wanted to use it. So my gecko beads are different on each side. If you have some that are not different on each side, it won't matter how you pick them up. But mine are jet black on one side, and then they have that slippery color on the other side. So I'm going to have to be careful how I pick these up so that they'll all be facing the same way. So it's going to be like the gecko bead has its top drilled like that. And of course you can use either side to be the top of your flower that you want to. I'm going to pick the slippery side because, you know, it's the shiniest, and, you know, me and shiny. So I'm going to be coming out of this bead and going into this bead. So I want to make sure that the way I'm picking up my bead, it's going to land with the side that the color that I want face up there. I think I've got it picked up the right way here. So I'm coming out of this green bead. I'm going to go into that green bead right there. I was worried that this might be hard for y'all to see what I'm doing, and I'm still worried because I'm just these beads are dark, and the gecko beads are shiny, and the green beads are dark. And so now I'm going to pick up my next gecko bead, and I'm going to go into this. I'm going to go around all these 4 beads here. These 4 beads right here. So I'm going to be going into this bead next. I need to lay my bead out here and figure out how I need to pick it up so that it'll be facing up the way I want it to be, and I think that's right. So I'm going to go into this bead. Lay it across there like that. So that one worked out well, so we're all right so far. So now I'm going to take my next one. I'm going to lay it out here. Now I'm going to be going into this bead next. So I need to pick my gecko bead up so that it'll be facing up, and the pointy part will be facing out so that it'll look like a flower. So I'm going to go into this 8-0. Get that to lay down the way I want it to, and okay, I picked it up the right way that time, so we're good, still good so far. So now I'm going to lay my next one out, and I'm going to be going from this bead into the 8-0 that I started in. So I'm going to pick it up from this way. Just going to have to lay it out and see which way you need to pick it up. So I'm going to go into this 8-0 that I started in. Okay, so that's good. Now I'm going to go into this first gecko bead that I put on. And now I'm going to pick up another gecko bead, pick it up the right way, and then I'm going to go into this gecko bead. Like that. Now I'm going to put gecko beads between all the gecko beads I've already got on here. So I'm going to pick up another one. And I'm going to go into the next gecko bead. Make that lay down the way I want it to. Pull it tight. Now I'm going to pick up another one. So you get this turned around so I can pick it up the right way. I think this is right. Now I'm going to go into the next gecko bead. Okay. Now I've got one more left here. I'm going to pick this one up. I'm going to go into this next gecko bead, the first one I added in this round, I think, or that might have been the first one in the previous round, I don't know, but it's the next one there. Pull it through. So there, I've made me what kind of looks like a little flower there. Now I'm going to sew around all these again just to tighten them up. Make sure I get through all the holes. If I don't, they won't lay down right. I'll flip it around so I can sew better. That was 3. I'm going to go through all 8 of them again. That's 5. That's 7. I'm going to go into this next one. I think I'll go into one more. So that gets me a little, what looks like a little flower there. Now I forgot to get my little 3mm beads out of here. Now I'm going to pick up a 15-0 and a 3mm bead and a 15-0. And I'm coming out the side of this gecko bead here. I'm going to find the opposite gecko bead, which would be this one. And I'm going to go in the other side of it. I'm going to go in it diagonally. Like that. And I'm going to pull my thread through, make sure my 3mm lands on top of my little flower I've made here. And this part can be fiddly because the thread wants to get caught around the petals of the flower I'm making here. So that puts me that little center in there. Now I'm going to go back through my 15-0 and my 3mm. And my 15-0. Hold my finger on it, pull my thread through. Be careful that your thread didn't get caught around the gecko bead. And now I'm going to find the gecko bead I started in, which was this one, and I'm going to go in the other side of it. So that makes me a little flower there on top of my chenille stitch base. So I'm going to sew around all these again just to tighten them up a little bit more. That's 1. And that's 2. Just being real careful not to get caught around anything. It's 3. I thought I might could get through. There we go. 3 and 4. And then 5 and 6. And then 7. And then 8. That one's, there we go. That one's got quite a bit of thread through it by now. It's not, didn't want me to go through there, but it did. So there's my little flower that I've made on top of my stitch. Now I'm going to sew, see which way my other part of my thread is. It doesn't really matter because I'm in the center. I'm going to sew, I think I'll sew back toward this way. I'm just going to sew through my stitch until I get up here somewhere else that I want to put my next flower. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to kind of offset them a little bit. Where I've got this one here, I'll probably put the next one about here and kind of offset each one of them. I just want to make sure when I get down here, I'll probably put it maybe somewhere like maybe in this one or something. I just want to make sure when I put it in here that I don't want my flowers touching each other, so I'll kind of lay it out there and make sure that they're not close enough that they're touching. I might not go that far down. I might maybe go into this one here and make my next flower. I'll just, once I get down there, I'll just kind of lay my gecko beads out and make sure that it's my flower, next flower is not going to touch this flower. And then I'm just going to keep doing that until I get my flowers all down this side, and then I'll take my stop bead off and put my needle on this thread and do the flowers down this side, and then I'll put the other side of my clasp on, and I'll do it just exactly like I did this side. So when I get all my flowers on here and get the rest of my clasp on, I'll be back and we'll see what I've got. So I'll be back. Okay, there's my bracelet all done, made with some of the gecko beads that I got in the most recent Adornable Elements Rotating Beads of the Month Club. This month I got the Hot and Trendy beads. I don't know, I'm beginning to think I should have used a different color for my base, one that would have contrasted against the color of the gecko beads better. It's kind of hard to see them against that green base. I put this side of the clasp on like I did this one, except on this side I did 3 11-0s on each side and 1 8-0. And on this side I did 4 11-0s on each side and 2 8-0s to give the bar more room to go through the ring part of it. It's not a ring, it's a square, but the square part of the toggle, sometimes you have to give it a little extra room on this side so it'll have enough room to go through there. Maybe if I bring it up closer you can see it better, because like I said, the flowers kind of don't really contrast against that green as much as I would have liked for them to. Should have used maybe a pink or something that they would have contrasted better against. And of course it's got kind of a dimensional look to it there because you can see up and under the little flowers. It's not hard to do, it just takes a little bit of time. And the chenille stitch is not hard to do either. It's just and it works up pretty quick, especially since you're using 8-0s for the base. Like I said, if you're not subscribed to any of the Beads of the Month clubs and you decide you want to be, that coupon code will save you 10% off the first month of whatever club or clubs you decide to sign up for. I hope you all have enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate those of you who have subscribed to my channel and watched my videos and liked and commented on my videos. I have a website where I sell my jewelry. I also sell gift cards and some extra beads and findings that I have. It's Teresa's Handmade Jewelry, and I'll put a link to it in the description box below in case you're interested, along with a link to my Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and my email. If you haven't, I'd really love it if you'd subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. So until next time, I hope y'all have a great day. Take care.